Narcissists are not born; they're made, and they're made from trauma.
Mm-hmm.
They're made from childhood wounds, from trauma. So, like absent parents, like the negligence or abuse, all that is a trauma response.
All right, you guys. We'd like to welcome you to another session of Let's Get Kicked Out. I'm your host, Carrie, and tonight we have our coffee crew member. Starting to the right, we have MJ, Jackie, and we have Megan. But we also have a special guest. We have my sister, Cabrice. And so the topic of tonight's discussion is very, very interesting because this is actually a drop of water bottle. But this is actually one that's been prevalent, especially in today's time. But we've been hearing about it probably for about 4 to 5 years when a certain someone, 45, got into office. But we'll keep that for the discussion. We're going to talk about narcissism. And so just to give you guys a little bit of the background on my guest here. So, you know, she's my sister, but also she is a nurse. She's been a nurse for 16 years. She's also ordained minister. She's been ministering for about 5 years. And she's also a mother of a 21-year-old. So we have someone here who can actually speak some knowledge to you. So we'll let us start.
Let's get kicked out. Well, thank you all for having me. So where do we start? Where do we start?
Let's start. So if you can just kind of tell us exactly what is, first of all, for our audience, narcissism.
Okay, a narcissism. Now, first of all, a lot of people like to categorize narcissism and put it in the area of mental illness, but it's actually almost categorized as like a personality disorder, personality traits. And a person with these particular traits, you see somebody who is have a sense of entitlement. They lack empathy. They have these type of grandiose thoughts of themselves. They build themselves up. But what people don't realize is that a narcissism is actually like a trauma response. I like to describe it as a trauma response. And I heard now, let me put this disclaimer out here. I am not by any means an expert.
Okay.
I do not master in this subject, but I have lived through it. I have survived narcissism or narcissistic abuse. So I can speak from the area of experience. But I heard the psychiatrist actually say that narcissists are not born, they are made.
Absolutely.
So everybody need to understand that.
Mm-hmm.
They are not born this way, they are made this way. And you would ask, okay, so how are they made this way? And it go back to parenting. It go back to childhood. It go back to childhood wounds. It go back to childhood trauma that is caused by abuse, negligence, and we see it every day in society. And that's why this subject is so important, and it's a passion for me because we need to recognize the influences that a narcissist have on people, relationships, and on your life.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you allow people with these certain characteristics to come into your life, they will tear your life up if you do not understand how to manage expectations and how to put up healthy boundaries. And in our culture today, we breed narcissists. In churches, we breed narcissists.
Mm-hmm. So can you tell us, as far as with dealing with your personal experience, without, names or anything?
We don't protect the innocent.
Yeah, but if you can kind of tell us, like, what were some of their traits, and when did you start noticing that, wait a minute, this is something far beyond just this person, just acting out. Like, this is something deeper than just, a person, his,
Now,
behavior.
with my experience, first of all, when I first had an encounter with this particular personality trait, I was very young. So I had never heard the word narcissism or narcissist. I did not know what it was, had never heard of it. But I came from a two-parent household. Now, I was the product of a divorce, me and my sister. So we did have some trauma in our upbringing. And I'll probably dig into that later, because you have to look at yourself when you're attracting these people into your life. There's some things in you that can attract these different type of personality traits. But one thing I noticed was the history of trauma that this person had in their life. Like they went through a lot of traumatic experience. So one thing you will see with certain people with these particular traits. Now, all of us have have narcissistic tendencies, and I take that to the ego. All of us have an ego, and the ego is all about self-protection, self-preservation, right? We're gonna try to protect ourselves. If we're in danger, we're gonna try to protect ourselves. But a narcissist, this is all the time. In every situation, in every encounter, it's all about me, 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 me. So this particular person have been in some type of stressful situation growing up as a child that was so hostile that they stay in that stress response. So they can't connect to somebody else. Like, say if you're in trouble or you're in trouble. Now, on the outside, they can put up the front that they care. But deep down inside, they're just trying to make themselves look good. They want you to see them in a certain light.
It's funny that, I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but it's funny that you mentioned like that they have that external appearance and then inside you're like a totally different person. But what I've noticed with experiencing a narcissistic personality is that once you find out who they are, you become enemy number one. And I guess because they have built this whole false image, and the fact that you threaten it.
Let's go back to that.
Okay.
As you asked me about, like, what did I notice in my encounter with that first narcissistic experience that I had? Trauma and the fact that they was very insecure. Okay. Narcissism is rooted in deep insecurity.
Gotcha.
Go ahead, you want to say something. You got something in your spirit it's trying to get out.
How long did it take for you to like really see that?
Actually, you know what?
Did it take a while?
The first time I told them no.
Yep.
How long?
Okay.
It wasn't that long.
And you still stayed?
I did, because I was young. I was young, and to go back to that, not to even to come back to me. Like, there was things that I was dealing with as a young girl.
So
like,
you were vulnerable.
I was very vulnerable, because one thing that attracted me to this particular person is that, now, Carrie and I, we came from a two-parent household, but I think I was probably starting high school. Were you in middle school when our parents got divorced?
I was elementary.
Okay. So in our household, okay, my mom was a disciplinarian. She ran a very tight, she was, I call her a drill sergeant. So my mom was really aggressive. My dad, even though he was there, he wasn't really there. He worked a lot. And he really didn't know us for real. So in a sense, we almost had like an absent father.
Right.
And so one thing I saw with my first encounter was the fact that, because narcissists, what they do in a dating relationship, they will love bomb you.
They do. Yes. That's
They
how they pull you
put-
back
that's-
in.
they put it on thick.
Yes.
Baby, they will be the man or woman of your dreams. You'll be like, where you been all my life? Like,
Prince
I've never
Charming.
known this type of love. Like,
Right.
you know, so that I had that, and I never known that. And I didn't even have it, I didn't even see it with my own father-daughter relationship. So this particular person, like, it wasn't nothing he wouldn't do for me. Now, he probably killed me, but it wasn't nothing he would do for me. And that was attractive to me, because to have somebody that I felt like I could depend on, when I call you, you there. that was attractive to me. Now that may not be attractive to somebody else, but where I was vulnerable at and I had a need, he met that need at that particular time in my life.
That's what I was about to ask. So with that, what you said, so you felt like you were missing that. That's why you took that in, like
It was
took that
attractive
in to you.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then another thing too is that you really have to know yourself, because I'm a very emotional person. I'm really an empath. So that's why I'm a nurse. I'm a caregiver.
Mm-hmm.
And I did have people pleasing tendencies too. So when I heard his story, like he told me things that happened. And when I learned what happened, like I wanted to be there for him. So I connected because of how empathetic I am. I connected to his story. And I didn't want him to feel like I would abandon him. Even at risking my, my own sanity. I kind of sacrificed myself.
Did you feel like you could, like, not sort of say fix him, but like, you know how they had that boy, you like, I can do all of this to make it better. Did you ever feel like that?
Did I think I could fix him? That's a good question. I think I could fix him. Probably so. I probably felt like I could love him enough.
Yeah, you know how people are so hurting, like, well, if I give them the love that they never had, maybe I can see a different side, you know?
Where people have abandoned him, like,
Right.
I want to abandon you.
Right.
So maybe if you could see that type, if you could have that type of relationship where you came from dysfunction, you came from toxic relationships, and that's all you've seen, then maybe if you saw something different, then maybe you'll act differently. I don't know. That's what I was thinking. But I was young too. But one thing I learned the hard way, you can't fix a narcissist.
No. It's how they can't be healed.
It's
like, you
dangerous.
can't. Like,
And the thing is, one thing I've learned though, because it's rooted in trauma.
right.
So you have to give people grace. Now the minister in me about to come out. Now I heard Pastor Michael Todd from Transformation Church. That's one of my YouTube pastors.
Right.
But he said something at the beginning of last year. He was talking about finding the pace of grace. And with those type of individuals, even a certain person that was, in charge for the last 4 years of this country, we have to extend some grace, because everybody has a story, and people deal with trauma one or two ways. Like you either have, and you have people that are healthy too. They work through their trauma, they work through the grief, because in trauma you deal with death, you deal with loss. Like in trauma, that's why it's so prevalent now, because we're in a state of trauma. We're in a state of stress in this country, in this world, and especially for our ethnicity, we don't like to deal with trauma. We like to sweep it up under the rug, or we like to put makeup on it and cover it up, and we like to present it as a certain way. And then you have patterns. Yana Van Sant said we have a pathology that takes form, and then you have these toxic relationships, these toxic bonds developing from generation to generation to generation. And even the violence that we're seeing in Birmingham. We're seeing a lot of violence, a lot of shooting, a lot of killing. Why are we seeing all this?
Right.
What's wrong with people?
Right.
It's
Trauma.
Right. Start from at home.
The people that are killing folks, they hostile, they angry. Why they got so much? They got a chip on their shoulder. Who did it? What's wrong?
No regards to life.
It's a lot of wounded people.
It is
Walking around here and hurt people.
Hurt
people.
So we're going to take a break, you guys. And when we come back, we're going to visit the different types of narcissism. There are 4 types, might be more, but Bruce, if you can kind of like let us in on
That's
that.
what I came across too when I was listening to Dr. Romani, and she actually broke them down and explained it where you have the covert narcissist, you have the communal. I didn't even know you had a communal narcissist, and that probably is the one that you will probably see on Facebook, showing all
Like
their
attention.
accomplishments and showing everything they do for the people, and they have to publicize everything that they do. Also, she pointed out the grandiose narcissists that do everything big, like they ride big, they dress big. they gonna have that trophy wife, or they gonna have that fine like everything that they're connected to. It has to be big and grand. And then you have the malignant narcissist, and that's the one you better pray and you better really get away from, because that's the dangerous one.
So let's pick up on the one, Jackie, while we were on break. Jackie, you asked a question about social media. So ask that question again so the viewers can hear it.
Do you think that social media today has really contributed to narcissism in our society?
It's a big factor. When I was saying how culture breeds narcissism, one way culture does that is by social media. Because if you think about what social media, people can dress up things however they want. They can present this pretty picture. They don't have to show their true selves.
Right.
And they're looking for the attention. That's the whole point of it. How many likes I get? Is anybody looking at my page? Is anybody commenting? So that feeds the narcissistic personality. Like that is a breeding ground for narcissists.
And that
You see a lot of narcissists on social media.
And that particular narcissist is called what type of narcissist?
You see all of them on social media.
But
the one she talks about is the communal, the one that is they're in the community. They're serving the community.
So those are ones who will go feed the
homeless, but they don't publicize every act they do.
Show,
they gonna be feeding they gonna be feeding the homeless. They gonna be like,
okay,
see me? See what I'm doing? That's the community. And you're like, well, they doing good work. They doing it for the people.
That's what they want you to think.
Exactly.
Right.
It all comes back to motive. Just like with the Bible, how God said, the man see the outside, but God sees the heart.
Right.
It all comes back to the motive of the narcissist and what they're motivated by. And even in dating relationships, with the things that they do, like certain signs, how they love bomb you and they lay it on thick, and then all of a sudden they pull it back and they get dismissive, and then you sitting up here like, well, they ain't doing what they was doing before.
Is that because they feel like they're out of control? So do you think a controlling person?
No, they do it because they have control. They love bomb you to get control.
But when they draw back,
they got you.
It's manipulation.
It's manipulation.
It's manipulation.
Because the whole point of the love bombing is to get you right where they want you, so they can manipulate the situation. Because now when they love bomb you, the whole motive is for you to fall in love with them. And once they get you, and I speak from experience, because I love hard. So I really had to heal certain areas, so I wouldn't attract those type of personality traits. Because once I fall in love with you, I'm with you.
I can remember my mom saying one thing, especially me experiencing my divorce, and I felt like I was losing so much control of everything, because you just feel like your whole world is just shutting down. But she said, Carrie, love is being able to let go. Can you let go? Can you love someone enough to let go? And that was like, okay, I don't control this person. I don't own them. I don't own them.
Right.
And so the thing was like with narcissism behavior, like
they're not gonna let you go.
they look and appear that they might be pulling back.
That's when they love
but
the
it's
artists.
for you to go after them. The best thing that you could do, which I think that's what Dr. Money was saying, is leave them alone.
Leave them alone.
Leave them
They
alone.
ain't gonna let you.
Don't give them no attention. They nice. Because if you
That's
go
what they
too
waiting
long,
on. They waiting on you to withdraw
Right.
so they can come
Right.
in 10 times harder than
if
you
you
the first time.
and the thing is, if you wait too long, you'll see them. They gonna somehow either attack you, or they gonna start trying to like shower you with gifts. But for the one, because I've been attacked, like I pull back And then I just kind of said, I was just like, man, this ain't right. Like, I need to get out of this relationship. And then next thing I know, I'm getting a text message like out of nowhere. You did, and I'm like, I thought we was done. Like, where this come from?
So do you think that they are
It's any type of
preying on the
tension.
most vulnerable women?
Well, the thing is that, and women do this too. It's not just men preying on women. Women are narcissists as well.
Right.
I know, I've heard that, you know, it's more prevalent in men, but now historically, when you think about back in history, you know, women were like second class citizens. So that's why you probably see more than you saw it in mostly men. But now as culture changes, and how women now, how we're in the boardrooms with the men, we're running conversations, we have a woman vice president, like we're doing big things. So and then it's also trauma. Women have been traumatized a lot, so you see it in both genders. But it comes back to insecurity. It's a wounded child. Something has happened in that individual's life that broke them. Whether they were abused, whether they were neglected, it's some type of trauma that happened where it makes them so insecure, and they lost a part of themselves. So now they're in. I'm a nurse, so I go back to like the sympathetic nervous system. You know, that flight and fight response, that stressor. They in a constant state of stress. Because they're insecure, and what happened, that trauma that they experience, that's repetitively they keep reliving that experience. So anything they respond from that trauma experience. They can be in a healthy relationship with a healthy individual, but they will manipulate their relationship. It'll be all about them because of the insecurity in them. They're empty, so they gonna use anything to try to fill that void of what they feel like they're missing. So that's why you see where they hold on to things. They're very materialistic, or they try to control people. And then they'll make you feel, with a narcissist, you have to know who you are. You have to have a strong sense of self, because they do they're very manipulative. They'll gaslight you, where they'll take what you know is true, and they will say certain things to make you doubt what you know is true.
Yeah.
You know the sky is blue. You know it's clouds out there. You know the grass is green, the dirt is brown. But a narcissist, if they want to manipulate a situation, they can be so conniving and so cunning that they'll have you thinking that the sky is red and the grass is blue.
Control.
No way.
So
That's
this is
what I'm
not the
thinking.
type of person to be in a relationship.
No,
with.
it's not.
Yeah,
And
no,
but
it's
see, the
not.
thing is, sometimes you can't. You have family members who are narcissists. So how do you respond when you have a close? There are certain people that have parents as narcissists,
Cut 'em off.
and sometimes you can't cut off people. And then
Okay.
that aspect, or like even if you're in the church, we have people who are in the church who are narcissists.
Let
I
me
grew
ask
up
you
in the
this.
church. My dad was a preacher.
How is narcissism promoted in the church?
Well,
Oh man, I can
Ooh,
speak from
child.
that too. They don't want you to go to another church. They don't want you to see another pastor. Everything the other pastor's saying is questionable. Like, I don't know if they preach
Control.
that right.
Control.
They don't want you to step outside of that church.
religion,
You know what I'm saying?
religion can foster narcissistic personality trait, because if you think about it, ministers and pastors, they're put on this pulpit, this pedestal.
But they men too.
Minister of music,
Right.
people that sing and have these gifts, they idolize almost. So when you have somebody who is wounded and looking for that type of attention, where they gonna go to a feeding ground. So they gonna go to a church, or they gonna go somewhere where they can get that attention, or they can get that, they can have that sense of power or control, or they can influence a situation. And it's hard when it's in that type of environment, because certain narcissists, they know how to play the game, they know how to play the role, they know how to present to show the kind of, kind of paint the picture that they're not a threat. but they know who to connect to get the influence.
That's what I'm saying. You think
And that's why you see a lot of churches being broken up, because
that's
now in the spiritual,
there you go.
in the spiritual world, we call this the spirit of Jezebel.
Oh, yeah.
That's
In the world of psychology, we're gonna call it the narcissist.
narcissism.
But
Oh,
for my
wow.
folks that be in the church, we gonna talk. This is
Jezebel.
Jezebel spirit.
Jezebel. Okay.
So, Brisa, my question: do you think most controlling people are narcissists?
No,
You don't?
I don't either.
no, because you got to go back to, first of all, because you can have some type of control issue, but you can still have empathy for somebody.
I agree. And you just might like to control a certain environment, not necessarily that person.
That person.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's a distinction. Everybody, now they may have some tendencies, and all of us can have narcissistic tendencies put in the right situation.
I agree. I agree. That's that
But-
fight or flight you with somebody. You trying to be
Yeah.
about you.
Yeah, we all have been in a stressful situation where you try to maintain
Right. I'm
control.
thinking me.
Mhm.
You know what I'm
Or
saying?
you try to hold on tight to somebody and you feel like you're about to fall apart.
Yeah.
But you're not in that constant state of it.
Yeah, and I think one of the key things to try to remember when you're dealing with a narcissist, they feel nothing about what they're doing to you. Like
No regards to how
it
you
don't
feel.
touch them. They don't care. So someone who's just trying to put up a control mechanism or just boundary, they might, okay, I'm doing this for my safety because this is hurting me, or no, I'm just kind of doing this because I like things this way. But I know you're hurting and stuff like that. They might kind of touch or feel like, okay, I'm doing this.
Let's have
I'm
a conversation.
sorry.
You
I'm
you
sensitive.
talk to me,
Okay, let's
and
go.
like you share your feelings with me, and to say I hurt your feelings.
Well, you kind of like, when you did such and such.
I don't know what you're talking about.
But you don't
You're talking
remember
about when you did such and such. Oh, I remember when you did such and such to me, and you don't
But
recall when you did A, B, and Z,
But
and
I'm
how that made me feel.
But I'm breaking up what I'm talking about. What I
But why you
experienced.
can't see how that made me feel?
Well, you never said anything about it until now. But this
Yes,
is
I did.
When?
You don't remember
No, I
that
don't.
time when I
No,
told
I
you
don't.
what I told you?
No,
They
you
turned
never
it
you
like
never brought it up.
that.
I don't. I really don't.
That's like,
And then here go this person over here like, well, maybe I did.
Yeah. Ooh, no.
So now
that was
I
like
forgot-
that, like in real life.
forgot everything.
That's crazy to me. Like,
So now I'm all over here confused because it's like, okay.
I never
It's
I
crazy
never
to me.
sat still to listen to even what she had to say, or even try to get an understanding of what's really bothering
But
her.
my thing is, how can you, okay, you are hurt. How can you disregard the hurt that you have and just be like, oh, well, I did that? No, this is about me right now. I'm saying, because you're the victim and this is the narcissist, right?
Right.
So you're going to totally disregard how you feel and think about, well, maybe I did do that.
Maybe if you
How
right.
can one do that as a person? Because at the end of the day, if you ain't trying to hear how I felt in this moment, what you felt in the moment when you felt it, I don't want to hear it. Because right now, this is how I feel. At the moment when you felt it, you should have spoke about it. Because now, I know you making it about you.
Exactly.
So at that point, I'm realizing, like, I'm not trying to be on that vibe with you. So it's...
And
We
see,
can't
and that type. See, that's
So how you
that's
be
a
with
good
somebody like
that's
that?
a good way to be, because you putting up
Because you set a
boundaries.
boundary up.
But you're
set
gonna
a
become an
boundary.
enemy to them too.
Okay, well, that's fine.
So-
But at the end, that's fight or flight.
Yeah.
I got to protect me. So you got to
Right.
go. And I'm fine with
So
that.
at that point, because remember, you know who you are.
Right.
You
Oh, okay, I get
you
that.
are
So-
settled.
So say if you
So
was in a work
establish a
situation
boundary.
with somebody, a coworker that you have to work with, so you can't really just separate from that person. You have to actually work with that person. So how do you manage that type of dynamic?
We
where
at
you-
work, we're not friends. We came to do a job. You do your job, I'm going to do mine. We ain't even got to
Oh,
talk about feelings.
I'm with
We
MJ.
came to do what we came to do, whether you... It ain't... I don't get paid to care about
But
how
you know,
feel.
with a narcissist, like with a normal person, that's good. We can put
Oh,
up boundaries.
That's
Okay.
great.
You work, but with a narcissist,
They have a craft skill.
they will go. They
They have
will
a
make
craft skill.
your day at work a living nightmare.
Now
Yeah,
with
try hard.
now with a person such as like, okay, you MJ, like you already know this is how I'm gonna attack this situation. If I'm ever faced with this type of person, this is how. So you are automatically number one enemy to a narcissist.
That's cool.
So what they're gonna do, because they are tactful individuals, from just my understanding of it, they're gonna come to you as friend. They're gonna come to you as hee ha ha. And you are because that's the only way, because you already got a guard. You already got a system in place to check them. So what they have to do is try to get around it, get over the border. They got the what they call infiltrate. So what they're gonna do is they come at you as friends, and then they'll start recruiting outside of you. They'll learn every secret about you. They'll learn all your secrets. They'll tell them
And
to
they'll
everybody else about everybody around you.
Connected to people,
And then
close
they have
to
called camaraderie. Camaraderie.
See, that's why I be on the vibe.
Camaraderie.
You know what I'm saying? If you
So these are people
No.
who they know, because guess what? They're two different people.
Right.
To you, they're friend, but then they go around you and they tell they hear who's not friend.
that's too
And
much
then they'll
work.
tell
But
them.
I'm telling
So
you,
too
they
much work.
won't come as your enemy. They'll send them. They'll send the camaraderie to come after you.
But you
Bottom
know
line,
what?
don't tell your business.
Thank you, Jackie.
Factual.
And even
That's why you can't. I guess I'm
Child.
too strategic in the way I think.
me,
Because it's
and then
like,
it's just like you, and even back old school, like my grandma and mama said, feed them with a long handle spoon.
Yes.
Everybody is not your friend.
but I'm gonna tell you what I want
Everybody-
you to know anyway.
Right.
So if I want you
And
to
you
know
know what?
it, you're gonna know
No,
it.
it. That's
My
exactly.
character gonna speak to me anyway, no matter how bad you try to do whatever
Exactly.
you doing. If you come, speaking from the narcissist perspective, if you go and try to do what you doing, people gonna be like, MJ? No, MJ.
That's true.
So it's like you gotta
know.
but that's me knowing myself
Self,
also.
right,
And me,
right,
I move the same way.
Right.
So if you try to do what you doing,
Right.
maybe that's just gonna make them matter. You know what I'm saying?
And see, that's the
now
thing.
we at HR, so I'm
That's-
cool with that.
That's the thing you end up facing, because the thing is, when you have such guards up against them and they can't hit you, then what they'll do, they'll just straight out attack you. They'll try to take your character, they'll snub you. But the thing is, never talk to them by yourself. Always have a witness. Always have some person that you know is probably like just neutral zone or whatever. Like, say for instance at work, you're at work and you're dealing with one. Never enter into a discussion where like maybe somebody in like management or something cannot hear.
Mhm.
I mean, they'll be there to witness so they can hear the conversation. Like if the topic, you stay on facts, you stay
Right.
like this is this.
It's like
If
a
they
policy,
gear off,
you gotta
you
go back
end
to it.
You have to put those guards up, 'cause keep in mind they have perfected their crafts. So I mean, some people miss it.
I've
Some
got a
people miss
question for you. Like, how long were you involved with a narcissist, and like, how did you get out? How many years?
Yes, girl. Ooh, child.
If you don't,
I was in it for a while.
Man, you stutter. You like, I don't even want to say.
because their relationship, and this is why I'm really having a conversation, because a lot of people dismiss this conversation. They be like, narcissist, she talking all that mess and whatever, but the severity of it and how destructive it is on either, like, that's why my relationship with God, I know who got me out of that relationship. Because I could have literally lost my mind.
That's why you got to know God, man.
And that's why a lot of people may think of me as, I've heard somebody call me controlling, but I heard another person who know me call me controlled. And the thing is that I know how to manage boundaries, and I know how to manage
You should.
expectations.
Did you learn that after the relationship? Okay.
I had to,
Yeah.
because
you do.
with a narcissist, it's no, like you said, feed them with a long handled spoon. And see, this is the thing too that churches need to realize, because churches can be such a feeding ground for narcissists, because we operate in love and forgiveness.
And they waiting on you to forgive them so they can manipulate you
but
again.
the thing is when you're dealing with that type of personality trait, you have to feed them with a long handled spoon. You have to put up boundaries, and you cannot be fickle and indecisive with those boundaries. So if you are in a relationship with a narcissist and you have made up in your mind, I'm done, and you may co-parent with this narcissist, but you still gonna have to have encounters with this person. Then you have to put up those boundaries where it can't be no 1 minute I'm with you and 1 minute I'm not. 1 minute I'm dealing with you, 1 minute I'm not. You have to put up boundaries so strong, whereas that person cannot have, you don't give that person no voice in your life.
So I got
You don't give that person no room to manipulate you. And you have to and that person will tear you down to other people to make you seem a way that you're not. But one thing I can say about a narcissistic relationship, if you're in those type of relationships, you'll learn who your friends are and who not your friends.
How so?
Oh, yes, so.
How so?
Because a narcissist can influence those who do not know you for real.
True to the point.
The people who truly know you, a narcissist cannot manipulate them.
And see, that's what I was saying.
And what a narcissist will do when they tune into the people who are truly your village and know you, they would be their enemy too.
It's hard to forgive a narcissist because they use that against you, and the church teaches forgiveness. So it's like that goes hand in hand. So like, how do you forgive one? And you know, because forgiveness, you letting them, you know what I'm saying? You forgiving them, and they thinking, oh well, this is my chance to go back into it. You know what I'm saying? So like, it's a fine line between that. So how do you deal with that?
Right. And when you think about forgiveness, you know, I know all of you have heard that forgiveness is more for you.
Right.
And I feel like, and when you think about forgiveness, it's basically you extending that person, you pardoning that person, and hopefully they won't do that offense again. But most of the time, well, all the time with a narcissist, they repeat offenders. So they're going to do that same thing again and again. As long as you give them the opportunity, they will do it. So, but the thing is, that's why at the beginning of the conversation, I quoted Pastor Michael Todd about the pace of grace. And when we think about grace, grace is unmerited favor. That means I'm extending something to you you do not deserve. You have not earned it. But I'm extending you this love. I'm extending you this patience. I'm extending you this understanding. But even with patience and extending love to a person, you still have to have that love for yourself. Because what the Bible say, you know, love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, and soul, and then love others as you love yourself. So first it starts with self-love. And when you know how to love yourself, then you'll know how to put up those healthy boundaries where you won't let people so close to you where they can repeat that same offense towards you. You know how to keep them at a healthy distance. And sometimes people don't teach how to put up boundaries. It's okay to put up boundaries. It's okay to tell people how far you can come. The Bible actually teaches us that, because it says, guard your heart with all diligence, for out of it flows the issues of life. Now, isn't that what the Bible says?
Yes.
So what is that? That's boundary.
It's okay to forgive and not reconnect.
It is. It is. And you know what? And even in that though, but I've actually, even with the ministry of grace, there can be reconciliation, but that doesn't mean that you have to be in an intimate relationship with that person.
So it's interesting that you say that, because the thing in connecting with the narcissism mindset, they don't know how to forgive. Sound like they
lack empathy, so
they don't know how.
It's all about them.
They can't get past those things. They can't let go. They can't reconcile. They can't any of that. There's no.
And sometimes they could have some encounters. They could grow a little bit, and I think Dr. Romani was talking about this. They could have certain periods of where it seems like they're growing, but the thing is, with a narcissist, they can't retain the growth, because as soon as they get triggered or there's a stressor, then they're gonna revert back.
That's a form of manipulation too, because I'm letting you think that I moved, but I'm really just right back to where I started too. Right.
Because they still operating from that wounded
saying
place.
Like they put it off as ADHD. Yeah.
That's interesting.
And it's a wounded. It's a wounded person.
That's another manipulative
Wow.
factor that they use. Like, well, you know, I got ADHD. Whole time they just manipulating you into thinking that they're You know.
Wow, it's just like a certain, like, you just kind of like put a lot of people in a category that I'm just like, I don't know. But now, that being maybe like a possible trait from them. Wow.
Yeah, they just want you to think that the attention factor ain't there, but really,
they operate in deception.
Yeah.
And when you think about deception is a lie. So they operate in a lie. So for you to counteract that, you need to operate in truth. So that's why when you have a conversation with a narcissist, when I have a conversation with a narcissist, I never come from my opinion. I come from fact.
That's what.
Fact check. They don't want to hear that.
It's
though.
not about what I feel. It's about what it has evidence.
They're still gonna go back to but you did, or but you.
And when it gets to that point, like one thing for me, the back and forth I don't do. So at a certain point, when I see you're not listening,
I'm not talking.
you want to monopolize the conversation, then I would politely detach.
I'm done talking.
And I may dismiss myself and I will leave.
That's me.
That's so mean.
All in love.
That's me.
Love or not.
I'm not finna
You
go
know
back
the
and forth.
love. I mean,
Okay.
because at the end of the day, you don't feed that energy.
Right.
But you know, sometimes the early stages of meeting a narcissist, like, I want to engage. Like, I'm gonna see what you got going on. At the point when you don't acknowledge what we're talking about, I'm out. But I don't love you because I don't know you yet. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I mean.
What if
I
it's
just
somebody
don't-
you know?
Even if. No, but that's me protecting my peace. You know what I'm saying? Because the people that you love, them the closest ones to you, family members. Like you said, it could be a parent. It could be, you know what I'm saying? Because, like, don't act like there aren't toxic parents in this world. You know what I'm saying? Like,
And
I love you.
Dr.
I ain't got to
Dr.
Romani.
Romani actually said that you are most likely to attract a narcissistic partner if you had a narcissistic parent.
Yeah, because that's all. That's the
That's
only
the
type of
only
love
thing
that you know.
That's what
Right.
you identify with that.
Yeah.
You identify with it, so yeah.
Man, I hate y'all had to go through that because that is crazy.
And if you think about it in our culture, just think about it. Think about mama, daddy, think about grandma, granddaddy. Think about some of the dynamics that you've witnessed in your own family that are traumatic. That probably nobody know. It's a family secret.
Oh yeah, I know what you're saying. Swept under the rug.
Swept under the rug.
That uncle.
keep
That uncle that
on up.
right. At this point, it's a mountain.
Yeah, this.
Why do you think we see a lot of alcoholism in our families?
There you go.
Right.
We see a lot of we just see a lot of
Drug abuse.
a lot of
Trauma.
drug
That's that
abuse,
trauma.
That's trauma.
That's that trauma.
a lot of toxic behaviors.
Yeah. Because you know,
You're
like
right.
with our culture, African American, a lot of things are like, or people make it that way, like taboo to us. And you grow up like, no, that's not really how they're supposed to be right there.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So, that would come into narcissism right there. Like,
Right.
a lot of things being in our culture is like taboo to us. Like,
therapy.
I don't know why black people don't like to go to therapy.
And we need to have.
I know why.
This why
I know why. Because okay, let's just
you
say
think
if I
about
come
what
to.
people think about you.
Well, no,
First off,
because we
let's
can't
start-
talk to our own people. So I feel
Don't
like if I
tell
can't
your
talk to my
business.
right, if I talk to my mama and she tell her sisters, if I talk to
Yes.
everybody telling everybody, so you grow that fact like I don't trust nobody. So how am I trust a stranger?
So it comes from a trust.
Exactly. We already traumatized from talking to our own
Insecurity.
people.
Yes.
But still though,
I
how
don't
can
feel secure enough.
right.
Because I don't trust people enough. Because look at our history. Look what we've
Right.
gone through as a people.
People, yes.
Then within our own culture, within our own race, look what we have, how we've inflicted trauma on
We
each
handle each other
other.
bad. We
And
handle each other
also,
real bad.
I know some black people, they're like, therapy, that's for white people. That's for white people. They go through all the problems. I'm like,
We
well,
go through the
you're a
most,
human
man.
being. You're going to go through stuff to treat yourself.
Exactly.
And another thing about
Exactly.
what you can see with a narcissistic personality, they're very superficial people.
Right.
they can't get deep.
They
That's
can't.
probably why therapy, it only helped them to a certain point. They never can achieve
But my
the
thing is-
benefits because they won't ever, for you to, like what we doing right now, we having a crucial conversation. We put stuff out on the table. It may not be pretty. It's ugly. But when you have a conversation, when you have a genuine conversation, when you start pointing out toxic behaviors, you start looking at generational patterns, generational curses, one thing, it make you look at yourself. It make mama look at herself. I have a 21-year-old son. There are conversations I had to have with my son where I had to look at myself and go to my son and say, I'm sorry. Because there were some things as a mother that I induced trauma in his life because of what I accepted, what I brought into our home. He didn't have, he was my son.
Right.
So what affected me affected him by connection and by relationship. But a lot of parents don't want to humble themselves and talk to their daughters and say, baby, I was so desperate for a man, I let that man come in here and he took advantage of you.
Right.
Never have
Or I was so desperate for a man, I didn't realize that man liked the men and I let him in on my son, and now my son is all confused.
Yeah.
So we don't have those conversations because when you have those type of conversations, then mama need to look at herself. We've had conversations with my mom. I've had conversations with my dad. We've had genuine conversations. And the thing is, my mom and dad are saved, so they was able to receive what we were saying from a child's perspective. That's another thing, because our culture has raised us that children are to be seen and not heard.
Yeah. You don't even get a voice as a child, but you don't.
You really don't.
What else? You can't ask questions. What if you had a genuine
I
concern?
say so.
Right. Why I gotta do that?
I say
Because
so.
I
That's all.
say
That's
so.
all you heard.
As I say and not as I do.
Yeah.
I said that too. Ouch. But when you think about it, you teaching your child how to live in deception.
Right.
So you also making them vulnerable to a narcissistic personality.
Man,
Yeah.
that's crazy.
Yeah, and
So what happened to us? We turned out good.
Jesus,
Okay, that's bad.
deliverance, because you asked the question of how did I disconnect from that relationship.
Right.
Now this may not be the textbook answer, but I can tell you how I got out of that relationship where I never turned back. The first thing is I had to identify that something was wrong.
That's it. Right. Can't heal it if you don't expose it.
Something was wrong, and I also had to humble myself and ask myself, why is this behavior or treatment okay with me? Now, I was young, so like I said, at that particular age, I did not know the word narcissist or narcissism. I did not know that word.
How long you say you were in that situation?
It was long enough.
That's fair.
Okay.
It was long
Yeah.
enough.
That's fair.
Because somebody out there might.
So I
pick
got
up
another question, because we're talking about narcissism. So what leads them to therapy? Like at the point, because what's the point of them going if they're not ever acknowledging? And therapy is something that you go to benefit from and to acknowledge.
It's probably different situations and scenarios that you will probably find a narcissist in counseling. One may be they probably were forced by the court to go to counseling because they probably did something that was very criminal. And so they didn't have no choice if they wanted their freedom.
So that's probably why it's not beneficial. That's probably why it's not beneficial.
Yeah, because I'm thinking like, okay, so you asked, so what would force a narcissist to even try to go to counseling?
Yeah, because you have to acknowledge
I
need
think
it.
Right.
Like as soon as you said that, what I saw was like a balance, a scale, and it's like, okay, let's go. If I don't go, I'm gonna lose this, and this is benefiting me.
So it's still
this
about
way.
self.
It's still about self. Okay,
Think
because right
about
now,
it.
I'm trying to
think like a narcissist, right?
let's give the example of maybe a marriage that's threatening divorce. All right. So say for instance you're in a marriage that's probably got you financially stable. You also got some things that you've always longed for, maybe kids, maybe a better, financial, better life. You got help.
You don't want to lose that trophy.
All stress ain't on you. beautiful spouse, like she said. So you win it. So if this person give you
got some money
maybe a ultimatum and
trying.
like
Don't you say you
saying, okay, if I
45.
don't go, this person is pretty much saying they're going to divorce me. So they're weighing that. Okay, well let me go, because if I go, then I'm still keep that connection, because that's what they want.
And
to
that
keep
can
that
also be
attachment.
another form of manipulation.
Right.
Saying, I'm trying. Don't you see me trying to work on it, when in reality, you just using this.
I think
What's
that
the
to
movie?
keep my
What's that movie with Taraji Henson?
they
where
big
she,
manipulators,
see
big
you.
manipulators.
What's that?
Acrimony.
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 Would y'all call Taraji Henson character a narcissist?
In the movie, they said she had borderline personality disorder.
Okay, let's not
that's
use her as an example.
That's what they
too
said in the
deep.
movie. Yeah. In the movie, she had borderline personality
Which
disorder.
they can have narcissistic
they
can have
tendencies and
narciss-
traits
yeah,
too. They
right,
can overlap.
Right.
But we ain't gonna get deep in there because that's a whole
we'll be
It's a levels to like.
And then
this
that movie,
mental health
I don't
stuff.
know, like
Our personality stuff.
Is what?
A lot of levels to this personality and mental
But it's
health.
if you think, it's a lot of levels to like a lot of things that we dig into.
Yep.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Like,
But think about
being
it. The Bible
bipolar.
say, we are wonderfully and fearfully made. Marvelous are your works. That we are complicated creatures.
Do you notice like the more the times become, it's like so many mental health disorders and so
Trauma.
many other things. Yeah, but this ain't nothing new.
It's
It's just a
not.
name.
Mhm.
It's just a name for it now.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
I
think-
this has been going on
Do
for
you
a
mean
long.
as far as like actions, like people shooting up stuff, like
I-
schools
It's
more
going. It's
frequently?
and I'll put this out here. It's going to get worse.
Yeah, that's what the
Oh,
Bible
yeah.
said.
Mhm.
It's
Jesus
gonna
gotta
get
be
worse.
coming.
Stay
Save me,
prayed up.
Lord.
We see it now because even like I was on Facebook Live and they were talking about the shooting and the violence in Birmingham and how it has increased, and people they wanted to blame the police, and as I was sitting there and I was looking at all the comments, I wasn't looking at the police, and I may offend some people. I was looking at the parents.
Right.
Oh,
We
what did
wanna-
I
we
say?
wanna-
People come from good households.
Wait a
man,
minute.
like-
Wait a minute. What you define as good?
I mean,
Because they may have an image. We don't know. See, that's the thing too.
that's true.
Right.
That's true. I can agree to
Narcissists
that.
operate in facades.
I can agree to that. It
so
look good
so
on the
you
outside.
can that the child could be going to the best school. Have parents who are from your perspective. Oh, they got it together.
But you will never know, and I'll never know either. Cause what
We'll
goes
know.
on in somebody's house.
We'll know. It's symptoms.
But and see, that's the thing. That's the breeding ground. Like right now, we're seeing a breeding pool of maybe narcissistic parenting. But the thing is, one is exposing your kids to certain things. Like a lot of people want to try to create that like my child, this is perfect. Everything's perfect. Once again, that narcissistic false image. Everything's perfect. But if you can imagine a child growing up on something just, ideal is so perfect. Oh, this can't be wrong. This can't be out of place. This can't be this. Them kids never experience anything like, okay, if this happens, if this doesn't happen as planned out, or if this doesn't go the way it's supposed to go, like they're always supposed to be 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So finally now this little child and then grew up, and now they realize, world ain't perfect, world ain't great, everything ain't 1, 2, 3, A, B,
Right.
C.
That's trauma.
And then when
That's
it
traumatic.
starts crumbling on them, they can't take it, or they don't know how to express it. They
They
can't
don't know how to
express
do
it.
it.
And you saying that a
So
lot.
now you seeing these. One little thing happen is, shoot them up. Everybody like,
I get that too, but at what point, like, we all have experienced some type of trauma in our life. At what point are you responsible for regaining control of your own life? You know what I'm saying? At what point? At what point do you stop saying this happened to me and this is why
It's
I
a
do
level
that?
of self-awareness.
right.
Right.
Because like, okay, I can only speak from my own personal experience. I had to look at myself, because at some point it almost came to a point where I was like, if I do not get out of this, it's going to destroy me. And so, and I'm sorry, I'm a minister, And I have to go back to God. I have
Don't
to go back to the
apologize
one
for- just
who
go.
created
Let's
me.
get there.
So
Right.
to be honest, my first point of getting out and being delivered was I went into the Bible, and this is why this scripture is still one of my favorite scriptures to this day is 1 Corinthians 13. And when it talks about love, the definition of what true love is. Not lust, not man version of love, but what true love is. And when I looked at that scripture and I looked at the illustration of what love is, and I put that picture over here and I made a comparison.
It's not love.
And I kept on, I was like, love is patient.
Love is kind.
Love is
Love
kind.
not
It's just
whole.
that element, it was just that elementary though.
Mm-hmm.
Love is kind.
Right.
That's not kind.
Right.
Love is
Um,
patient.
Love is not rude.
Mm-hmm.
Don't know grudges.
That
or
don't
none
look
of
like
that.
him. Exactly. So when you go through that list, and I held every last attribute up to that person or the relationship, and I was like, this not love.
Time to go.
And it still wasn't that easy.
Right. And that
It wasn't that easy because it was, and if you're in a church, you've heard people talk about a strong tie, a stronghold, a soul tie,
Soul tie.
and a stronghold.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you connect to a person on an emotional level, on a physical level, I mean, you know their story, you know their trauma, you know what they went through. And just like in a marriage, you know what this person gone through, and you've experienced things with that person. So no matter how that person may perceive the relationship, how you perceive it, and you tie yourself to that person. So you have to be delivered.
Okay, so I got another question.
So it was a life and death situation. And I actually, be honest, and everybody's experience is different. I was delivered.
Right. So it's like narcissism or narcissistic people can't be healed, but God is real. So how? That's crazy to me. You know what I'm saying? Because I feel like God can heal everything.
Because you have
So how do you get? You know what I'm saying? Like, because the therapist was saying like they can't be healed.
Well,
That's
she's
from the
speaking
front.
from a therapist
Yeah,
standpoint.
she's
That's a
speaking
conventional
from
way.
psychology.
Right,
Mhm.
and that's my
Conventional
point.
way.
So at what point? Because you know these are narcissist people. And it's
The
like,
thing is with that though, just like with any type of spiritual deliverance, you know the scripture that says that when you clean the house out, the spirit leaves the house and it goes out,
right?
and then
It brings.
and you clean the house up, but then it come back and they see the house is clean. And
It
so they
brings
find
so
the house
many
clean,
more-
and it brings other
So
spirits back
many
with it,
more.
and
It
then
brings
you worse
twice
off
as many. Yeah.
than you were before.
Right.
And so the thing is that, like the therapist said, narcissists, they can have some spurts of growth, but they can't retain the growth. So the thing is, if something happened, they may revert back, and then they're worse than what they were before.
But is it a moment? We all have moments. You know
We
what I'm saying?
do.
I just don't.
But
I don't want to believe
deliverance-
that they can't change. And, but
I won't say that either, because I believe in deliverance.
I do too. But
I believe in
this is what
deliverance.
the experts say. 'Cause
But
it-
But at the same time, you have to be in a posture. You have to be in a posture of humility.
understood.
And if I'm in a place where I'm in this place where I'm trying to protect myself, because when you're delivered, it's almost like now this is something God told me. You're going to die to you, or you're going to die to me. Which one you going to die to? So I had to die, but I died to God.
Right.
For him to help me. So it's all a decision too. Even with a person who's dealing with that type of issue or any other issue, what are you gonna die to? Because some people want to save themselves.
Right.
I want to be my own God, because I don't want to lose that control, because for some reason, that's why I'm insecure, because somewhere in my formative years, in my childhood years, my upbringing was so unstable that now I'm in a fight to keep that control. And for you to be delivered, you have to surrender the control over to God.
Right.
Yes, you do.
And you have to get to that place. If you don't get to that place, then you won't be delivered.
Right. It all
And there's
comes
certain
down-
things you won't be able to make a decision out of. You want to say, well, I'm going to stop doing this, and think you're going to stop. No.
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 Just like you been saying, like it all comes down to you have to want it for yourself. Like, you have to want to change. Like, I can't change you. So, like you said, it's either like you die to yourself or you die to God. You got to want it. So, if you don't ultimately want it,
And
then
you
you'll
have to
never
be
change.
self-aware that there's a problem.
Exactly.
But that's but
And
they're
if
not.
that, if that,
they not-
then they will never get fixed.
It's
But
right.
I just feel like I guess
It's
we
a no.
gotta we done swerved into like the biblical terms and like
Yeah,
but
because
I'm saying that like God can heal all things.
Yeah.
Right.
Not the therapist, because therapy and religion don't go together. You see what I'm saying?
Mhm.
It done people that been clean from the strongest drug. You see what I'm saying?
But
We're
I
talking
guess-
about something.
But you, at this point, you don't want to just totally neglect the fact that, okay, God can't heal, yes, but you got to want Him. You got to want
Yes,
That's
Him.
true,
you
too.
have to want it.
That's
Because you
true,
can
too.
reject God.
That's what
You
I'm,
can-
that's what
and
I'm
the thing
saying.
is,
Mhm.
narcissism. Like I said, it comes back to insecurity, deception.
Mhm.
So the thing is, you can reject truth.
Mhm.
That's true.
Okay, it's and like okay, Saul to Paul, his conversion.
Right? Okay, preacher.
He had to get knocked off the donkey. He had an encounter with Jesus,
Mhm.
and the scales had to come off his eyes. But he had an encounter
Mhm.
for that conversion to even happen. And the thing
And that
is,
took something non-conventional. That took something outside of therapy. That took something outside
Right.
of earth
Mhm.
therapy
Right.
or people therapy. It took a greater power. We don't want to neglect God. We don't want to neglect Him. So
and your relationship is
Yeah.
the relationship we have with our Creator God and the Holy Spirit is therapeutic.
And He gives us. He gives
We
us a
talked
choice
about
too.
narcissism in the church. You know what I'm saying?
Y'all did?
That it. Yeah.
In your church?
No, we just.
Oh, you said, how you said? I thought you. I was like, really?
No, and this is like swerving into a whole
Well,
nother.
swerve on in it. Swerve on in it.
Let's
Let's
get
get kicked out.
Let's do it. We talked about narcissism in the church. You know what I'm saying? Like, let's get into that. You know what I'm saying? Because that exists too.
Mhm.
So like,
But think about
you're
it.
in
though.
the church already.
But think about it. You have religion, then you have relationship.
Bam.
Okay. That is two different things.
Bam.
When you think about religion fosters the narcissistic mindset
And
because it's all
narcissists
about
run
ritual.
from intimacy.
It's about rituals and present a certain picture
Mhm.
and a facade. But when Jesus came, Jesus demolished all that. And I bet you, I tell you, I'm finna diagnose some folks. I bet the Pharisees and the Sadducees were some narcissists. Because they gaslighted Jesus.
Yeah.
They tried to manipulate the situation.
Mhm.
Baby.
But they didn't realize they were speaking to the truth.
Right.
Right.
See, let me take these earrings off.
Get comfortable.
Take your shoes off.
Because I mean, and the thing is like, how you gonna deceive the truth? You talking the truth.
Right.
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 And you said
Right.
to deal with narcissists, you need to.
Hey, bring it back.
Right.
Bring it
There you
back.
go. There you
Bring
go.
it back.
There
And
you
that's
go.
why we have to know. Like I was when I encountered that, and I'm glad I did though, because what it did was it made me search myself.
Mhm.
It made me search myself. It made me actually become more rooted in my faith.
Right.
Mhm.
Because it took my relationship with God. It took the Holy Spirit. I couldn't even depend on my family to
It
give
made
me.
you seek that though. Like
Yeah,
that was your purpose.
There you go.
That pain had a purpose. I'm
It
glad
did.
it had a purpose.
It did.
Because baby, when I reflect back on it, was many times I was in my room as a young girl crying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, Lord, I don't know. I never seen this before. I didn't know how to deal with that.
Right.
I didn't see that in my mom and dad relationship, the
Right.
dynamic
Mhm.
I had.
Right.
So I'm like, and I'm young. Like that, it really was like my first real relationship. Like, what I do with this? I don't know.
That was to lead you the way you are.
And I'm telling you, like, it's
because
so,
had you not went through that, you wouldn't know. You wouldn't
Right.
know about it. You
it's
wouldn't
so
know how to
amazing
interact
how
with
God
people.
works.
Right,
It's
right,
so
right.
But
amazing.
it made you stronger, and it made you know. It made you learn
Mhm.
yourself. Cause sometimes I for one
That's
just
a
haven't
hard
been in a
way to
situation
go.
where I had to figure out, hey, maybe this because like I know myself. You know what I'm saying? So you can't talk me out of
Right.
what I am and what I know. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? So you was trying to figure that out in such a vulnerable state.
Yeah, I was.
But you got to it. That's the thing. You got to it.
I was in that developmental age. I think that's the developmental stage of identity versus intimacy. So I was in that stage of my life where I was still trying to figure out who I was. You know, and what relationship and what love is about.
Right.
You know, so it was
One of
pivotal.
teenage years, I swear. Teenagers.
And then to encounter other relationships, and I've seen some other type of narcissist. I've seen the communal. I've seen that type of narcissist.
Oh, go ahead. 'Cause
I've seen the
asked you all
covert too.
questions.
The covert narcissist is tricky because they're very passive aggressive,
Oh, yeah.
and they play the victim
Ooh, child.
card.
Hmm.
And you be sitting up here like,
Oh, listen, ain't no way you always the victim. Always the
and,
victim.
and one thing I noticed about them, how you can tell they're narcissists, because when you actually take that victim card away from them and you give them truth, or you put that mirror up to them so they can look at themselves and let them, they can't play that victim card with you, they would get mad at you.
Like the Karen.
They would lash out at you.
Okay.
With the Karen.
They
You don't even know what I
They don't take
through.
constructive criticism very well.
I've got a question for you.
Uh-uh.
Okay, so since your first relationship was so hectic, how has it affected you in your relationships after that?
Well,
That's a good question.
to be honest, in the subsequent relationships I had a lot of anger.
So you
And
were
I was-
bitter.
and
Okay.
I wasn't bitter. I was angry. And I was on, my mama told me this. She said, you're always on the offense. It's almost like you have somebody backed into a corner, and when they get in that corner for so long, they're going to try to fight their way out. So it's like I was always in a position where I was fighting. I wasn't laying hands on people. Like I wasn't
Yeah, we
fighting folks
understand.
physically.
Like, yeah, like,
But,
like a spiritual battle.
But I basically was like, I won't ever let nobody hem me up like that.
Did that
I
make
was
you
just
more-
about to say that, like you, because you went through that.
It actually gave me a more masculine energy. I'm talking about masculine and feminine energy. It made me a little bit more probably masculine. Where I probably could, in some of my relationships, I did have some people that say I could emasculate a man.
That gotta be funny.
Hey, look, look, y'all got that.
Maybe
It's intimidating.
I can cut you down in 0.5 seconds.
Because
I
I
can
was
see
still
that.
working through the trauma.
Yeah.
I probably still got a little remnant of that where I'm still working through it.
So how long did you actually work on it?
I'm still working on it.
Still
Still
working
working on it. Okay.
Still working on it. I'm better than what I used to be though.
Gotcha.
Yeah, you can talk about it.
Are you?
Yeah, actually, yeah.
Are
And
you-
I have seen reconciliation.
Yeah.
Oh, I was gonna say, are you less angry now? I think you less angry.
I am, because God has shown up in the situation.
Mm-hmm.
Because everybody has their own path, and
Right.
I do believe that. I remember one of my spiritual moments, one of my mentors. I remember one time I was so mad. I was mad at a certain person, and I was like, I went to church mad. Like they had to get the oil. I was like, somebody need to pray over me, because I'm about to dig a grave and put that person in it. Like I was real mad. And she was like, Brisa, how they gonna get saved if you trying to bury them? I said, I don't care. And she was
That's
like,
deep.
no. She was like, no. She said, you may be that one to show them the love. I was like,
You can't fight hate with hate.
I'm not feeling that right now. I'm not feeling the love. But you have to manage those expectations, and you have to put those boundaries in place. But you pray.
Mm-hmm.
You pray, and you still show people love,
Yep.
Absolutely.
because, like I said, hurt people hurt people,
Mm-hmm.
and we have to get to a place where we stop passing down trauma.
Right.
So I don't know if you can talk about this or not. I'm gonna ask you though, like, how is your relationship with that particular individual?
Good.
Huh? Is it because of you or because of them?
I say it's because of me, I say it because of the Holy Spirit.
But is it the
But-
same? Like, are they? Because we said it's always the same, and they can't change. So are they the same?
The thing is, okay, we talked about how those personality types, they can't retain growth.
Right.
So 9 times out of 10, you're gonna have to be the grown person in the
Which
relationship.
is fair.
Right.
Which is fair.
So in those type of, especially if it's a relationship that you cannot cut off,
I understand that.
I remember one of our first ladies, one of our old mamas in the church, she said you gotta put your big girl drawers on.
Mm-hmm.
And there are some things that sometimes you have to just swallow your pride. And sometimes you have to walk away from situations. Sometimes you have to keep your mouth shut.
Okay.
You have to pick and choose your battles.
You do.
And the fact that you probably have very strong boundaries in place.
I do.
This is your faith too, though. Your faith.
Somebody told me I'm very intolerant. I had somebody to describe me that way. They
Was
said,
it a man?
It was. It was. He said you're very intolerant. He said you're very intolerant. I was like, well, I don't think it's intolerance. I think I try to put up boundaries.
Your boundaries.
Yeah.
But you know what, Bridget, this goes back to generational curse, like generational stuff. Black women, they have always put this stigma on us that we're angry,
We are.
we're intolerant,
We are sometimes.
we're superheroes,
We are that.
we're controlling at some point.
Too. We are that too.
But it had some
had to be,
facts.
though.
Okay, it had some facts to it, but everything is not true. And no, and I might offend some people, but like the black man, they've never sat down and talked to us and understood why we're that way. Just like vice versa. We don't know why the black man at some point is like he is. So at some point, we need to sit down and talk to each other. Like, why are you this way? Why am I this way?
Let me chime in on that. It's because men are taught not to cry and women are taught to be stronger. Like you know what I'm saying? We strong by nature anyway.
Right.
We go through. I mean, we bear children.
Mm-hmm.
We go through a lot of things. You know what I'm saying? But men are taught to hide their emotions.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? Oh, you a boy, toughen up. While we
Just like I'm
pacify
saying,
the
generation.
wi- But that's what I'm saying. But that's why.
But
that's
then,
why.
as black women also, if you're a single mother, you have a full-time job.
Right.
You gotta have a
You
child.
ain't got no choice
take
but to be
care of it.
strong.
You have to
You don't
do
have
that.
a
You
choice.
gotta pay these bills. You need
Yeah.
to do this. You want to elevate and grow and get to the next level. So
You don't have
gotta
time to
make
sit and
for
think about
school.
it.
Right.
You don't.
Exactly.
You
You
don't.
just have to do. So a lot of women are burnt out, and that.
So
And
yeah, I'm gonna have an attitude. I'm gonna be all of those things you said
Okay.
because of those things. And I'm
So to
telling
kind
you.
of
Right.
kind of bring it back and kind of tie in, that might actually be the reason why now so far it has switched from the man being seen as the narcissist to the woman
It is.
being seen
It
as
is.
the narcissism, and not to mix, because it seemed like we're now getting into a lot of other things that people can actually see as and view as narcissism, but there are layers to this thing. And so for a black woman dealing with so many stress factors, the image that's being painted of her and what she's actually internalizing. So
I get you.
yeah,
Lack
so,
of empathy. I don't have time to
Right,
feel that.
right, 'cause you're
always
I
on
don't
the
have
go.
time.
Right.
I don't have time to do
tired.
all of that. You know what I'm saying? But you don't really hear a lot of men talking about
Right.
women
we,
narcissists.
and this is something so simple, but this is something society as a whole, women, men, white, black, whatever your ethnicity is, we say, the first thing we do when we see somebody, we say, hey, how you doing? We don't take the time to let them respond and hear what they got to say back.
That's what I was just saying. We
And
never.
They don't respond because they know you ain't ready to listen.
They don't hear. Oh, they don't.
How you doing today?
Oh,
What I said
good.
I'm not doing
You
good.
ain't
What are you gonna do about it?
You know, I mean, I don't know how many times I've gotten on the elevator with someone and said, "Hey, how you doing?" And, "Oh, I'm
And
fine," but they like this. I'm fine.
Right.
Because I can feel
Because they
you're
know
not
you don't,
fine.
They don't really. They
I
know
can
you don't
tell,
really.
and
care.
I said they don't think I really want to take the time to actually hear how
Hear
you
that.
doing. And there have been times where I said, "No, you not." I can feel it all the way over here. You alright? You sure you alright?
Yep.
Yeah, I said, you know, but when you're ready to talk about it, I'll ask you again in 10 minutes. Because society does not take the time to slow down and listen.
But
Well,
also even.
okay.
I've been talking all day.
It really is all about self. Like you said with social media, me. Look at how I'm living. Look at what car I'm driving. That's why. I mean, who's gonna open up to that? I mean, if you're
We love
bombarded with
to
that.
stay on the surface. We do symptom management.
Yes.
I'm gonna pull in my medical knowledge now. And like you was talking about, as far as the angry black woman and all these things that we get kind of
Throw it on us.
It's a symptom, and we never take time to go back to the root. And I get offended by that a lot of times because I don't like people putting certain things on me without understanding my story. And that's one thing, even as ministers and even when we're ministering to people, whether it's in the church or whether it's outside the walls of the church, you know, in the healthcare, because we're ministers even in the hospitals.
Right.
We deal with people who've been traumatized physically, emotionally, mentally. And we deal with the symptoms, but we don't deal with the root. And like in nursing, one thing they taught us, we looked at objective data, we looked at subjective data, and then we come back to the root, the diagnosis. What is it? And what's causing those symptoms? And I have a son, and I've been a single mother. I've never been married. So it's been times that I had to have. I remember one time my son did say, he was like, "Mama, why are you so angry?" He actually said that. And then at one time, my son punched a hole in the wall because he was so angry.
What was your response when he asked you that?
First of all, I looked at him and rolled my eyes, and then I stepped back because I was offended. And that's another thing, we need to stop being so offended, and we need to listen to people. Because my child been with me all his life, so he's not lying on me. He see something,
Right.
and so I stepped back. And I had to look at myself. So I went to my mama. I went to people who know me, who gonna tell me the truth. I don't. People around me. I don't. My core. I have people that can tell me the truth.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't like yes men, yes women. Don't tell me what you think I want to hear. Tell me the truth.
Right.
You know. So I went to the people who know me best, and then I had to really look at that thing because I was like, my own son saying I'm angry, and I'm like, why are you angry? And I was angry. I was mad.
Right.
I was mad because of the narcissistic relationships I have been in, because I've been in more than once. One.
Yeah.
When I look back on it, I've been in more than one. I've encountered more than one type of narcissist. And not even just in a romantic relationship. I've encountered it in other settings.
Word.
I'm a minister and I'm a nurse.
Gotcha.
Breeding grounds for narcissists. Medical and church.
Absolutely.
And can you tell our viewers, like, why is that? Like, what makes those people, those professions, or that trait
So prevalent in those different types of professions.
yeah, what's the word? Empaths, codependency, whatever you want to call it. You know,
Well,
help us understand why.
now when you say codependence and narcissists are two different type of personalities. But to me, I could be wrong, but to me, I see them as two sides of the same coin.
Okay.
Both have trauma. Both are wounded, but they're responding differently. The narcissist lack empathy. The codependent has so much empathy that they sacrifice themselves for the sake of somebody else. So whereas the narcissist is self-preserving, the codependent is self-sacrificial. And both of those are not healthy. So you'll see a lot of narcissists in healthcare, and you'll see a lot of codependents in healthcare because they want to give, they want to love, they want to take care of that need syndrome. I need to feel needed. A lot of codependents are fixers. That's why they can get attached to narcissists because they want to fix the people.
That's a long journey.
It's a destructive journey too.
I got tired after I heard that.
Because the narcissist will let you sacrifice all yourself.
Exactly. They never catch up to them. That's a long.
Now you wanna die for me? I kill you.
Man.
So yeah. So but you see it in certain professions because the narcissist like the control, the influence, the recognition. But then the codependent, you know, I can feel that need of feeling needed.
That's a toxic relationship.
Very.
When you got into your second relationship with a narcissist, did you cut it off like when you saw the signs?
Oh, man, that's a big word.
And it
That's
You
a
don't have
no,
to answer
Jackie.
that. You don't
You don't
have
have
to
to
answer.
answer.
Actually, I'm thinking back. You know, I'm about to be 41 years old. I gotta think back.
Yeah. 'Cause I'm trying to remember who was your.
I said I had more than one. I ain't say I had two. I said I had more than one. I ain't pinpoint how many.
They in order.
Don't do that.
Okay, yes, ma'am. I won't.
One of the ones I encountered, I did cut it off. I tried to cut it off, but he wasn't hearing that. He was persistent to the point I was almost kind of scared.
Okay, like okay.
But I still had those. I feel like now I'm in that codependent recovery. But back then I was still like dealing with my codependency issues.
Really vulnerable.
Yeah.
I gotcha.
Wanting to feel needed.
Yeah.
Do you think codependency affects more females than men? Because I feel like it does.
I think you'll probably see it in a lot of women, but I've seen it in men too.
I've seen it in some men as well, especially
Like
like police officers. I've seen, yes, police officers have a very codependent.
You ain't lying. I know some.
Them say,
And the men that I've seen it in, they have
Superhero.
mother wounds.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
They have mother wounds. They have deep mother wounds.
Yep.
Long story short, cut it off at the beginning. Don't pass, go.
Pay attention to
Pay
that.
attention to the hidden signs. Do not rush relationships.
Yeah.
No.
Take allow time.
Let them to grow.
To know somebody.
You would know when that first argument comes.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me ask-
allow your relationships to be tested with a conflict.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
okay.
Oh,
Let's
that right
touch
there.
it.
Yes.
Let's touch it. Let's go there. Okay.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Okay, because I made a statement to someone saying that you should see someone in every season
You should.
experiencing loss.
I agree.
Whether it's not that it has to happen. Like of course, we're not wishing death of a
No,
loved
but
one,
you have
but
different
that's important though,
situations.
different type of loss.
Yeah.
Financial situation. How is this person dealing
I agree.
with, you
A
know,
loss of a job.
Men don't deal with
Different-
financial
different
situations.
things.
well.
Oh no, they don't.
I
Because
don't-
they
I don't want to date anyone where I'm just only seeing you happy. Like that scares me.
That's not real.
That's not exactly.
Wait
That's
a
not
minute.
that's not
Cause
realistic.
I ain't mad a lot. Hold up.
Actually, COVID was a very good teacher.
But you know what? But MJ hit on the point. Like
All these divorces.
that's the
I'm
problem.
a
I
happy
have.
person, but
I just ain't trying to
you
dwell
just
in
said
it, though.
you not mad a lot.
I'm
so
not.
you've been mad.
But
Like,
even when
my
I get
friends-
mad, I ain't irate. You know what I'm saying?
But-
like I might just be like, I'm mad.
People that's close to you, they will know that.
They would
Like
know
my
something
friends,
wrong.
they know when I get mad.
Right, they will know.
Even though I don't get mad a lot, they know when I
but
when I get mad.
that also should determine the temperature for whatever relationship you're in or
Right.
or where you are with that person. If you don't feel like you're at a point where you can allow that person to see you upset or experiencing these
Right.
things, then you're not ready to move in such whatever degree level with that person yet.
Mm-hmm.
Vice versa. If that person have not seen you in those different stages, then they should not move. They should not go.
I think the expectation of the reaction is it it matters too, because it's like everybody handles emotion different. Like
They do, but
so like I can't, like if I lost somebody and I just don't want to talk about it, or I just want to be in
but
my
that's
own
still your
space.
experience. That's still how you experience it. Are you allowing them to say, see that this is how I did because I have withdrawn, or because I'm not? This is how I deal with this.
Yeah, but what if you're with somebody that say, I know something wrong with you, like you want to talk, you want to do this, like I can tell, but what if I just want to be quiet?
But that's how you deal with it. Then
Yeah.
they have just learned that, okay, when she experienced this, she does that. They have just learned something about you.
The thing is too, as far as emotions are indicators, not dictators. Your emotions shouldn't be dictating.
Right.
That's what I'm
And
saying.
the thing is, and I just been watching. I've been binge watching Grey Anatomy. You can learn a lot of stuff in those dynamics in those relationships, because it was a lot of avoidant personalities. Like I was looking at some of the relationships, and like Amelia, for example, she's a neurologist, a neurosurgeon, and so she how she dealt with her grief and loss. She would just leave. Like she would avoid no communication, no conversation. She just ghosted the person that she was in a relationship with, and it was so unhealthy.
I was just about to say that's unhealthy.
You know, so
But it's fair to say, hey, I just want some space right now. That don't mean I don't want to be with you.
Right.
That don't mean
Right.
that I don't love you. I just need a little space. That communication though.
But that's communication, and then that person has just learned. Okay, when she goes through things, she's strong enough to communicate.
Right.
That's not judging how you handle something. That's
Right.
just saying, okay, you can communicate. And what that does is establish a trust issue, because now I'm like, okay, I'm not just gonna feel weird and say, okay, you just abandoned or you just left the
I
relationship.
now know why.
I now know why you respond like
That's
that.
fair.
That's
Why.
me learning
That's
you.
fair.
That's me learning you. So
Even if I don't, maybe I don't want to talk, but I want you around. You know, some people
Right.
get weird when they like, why
Mhm.
why you acting? Well, I just want your. I don't want
Right.
to talk.
I want
If you
your
wanna-
presence.
But if you want to talk, I can listen. I
Right.
just don't want to talk.
And
I can listen to you.
And when my sister, our older sister, when she lost her husband, was a traumatic death. She at that moment, all of us was grieving, and at that moment we was all together, but we didn't say anything.
Yeah.
We was just present with each other.
Right.
Like we didn't know what to say.
Exactly.
Sometimes there is nothing.
It sometimes something can be so traumatic, it just knock the breath out of you. You don't have no breath to even say a word.
Same with me and my brother and my dad. It's like we would, when my mom passed, we were all in the same. We came home, we were in the kitchen like after everybody left, and it's like we didn't have words. It's like we didn't know what to say to each other. It's like because it's so traumatic, we didn't know what to say. So at some time, everybody grieve different and they go through things different. Like we just at the beginning, we didn't know what to say. But like you said, when you have God in your life, He will lead you in the right direction. So by Him leading us, we slowly we talked about it. And what helped us was the memories. That was our biggest factor. We remember everything that my mom did, that we did with her. So that's what helped us.
But a narcissist will make you feel guilty about that.
What?
And see.
okay, so
Oh my bad.
Go ahead,
'Cause
go.
I've been
do
over
we
it.
have time, Phil? We got 2 minutes. 2 minutes. Okay,
Yeah.
2 minutes.
So like, there's no time for a person to grieve. So okay, so is it fair? Like, if you are grieving for like 15 years and you're still using that as an excuse, like, well, such and such.
See, the thing is though, and you have a lot of people still stuck in grief.
And that I guess
And
that's
it's a healthy way to grieve, and that's why I said COVID, even though it came with a lot of loss, it was to me a teaching tool that God allowed it, because a lot of people do not know how to grieve and go through each stage of grief. We all deal with loss in different types of ways, and it's okay to experience anger. It's okay to be sad, but you have to walk through it. You can't stay stuck in it.
right.
And that's why even in dating relationships, you need to see different phases. Like you need to see how a person deal with loss, because if that loss consumed them to the point where they so like they lose their whole sense of purpose, their
15
whole
years
identity.
Right.
So is it safe to say they didn't grieve correctly? Is that, you know what I'm saying?
It's not a healthy
It wasn't
way of
healthy.
grieving.
It
Oh,
definitely
okay,
wasn't
okay.
healthy.
If you're still dealing with it, that I mean, we're gonna
Yeah.
deal with it.
I've
forever,
heard
but,
that. I've
You know what
heard
I'm saying?
that.
For that long and it's still affecting you.
Right.
You know, like that
I heard this saying, they said where there was great love, there'll be great
Great
grief.
Mhm.
Which is fair.
And that's true.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I guess it's your understanding of loss and grief too.
Mhm.
Like, how do you understand the afterlife and what you understand to be true about death to make you? I did hospice as well, so I actually loved hospice.
What we got on the time, Big Phil?
I know we touched on so many different
They
topics.
gave us 2 minutes to
We
it
here,
ago.
y'all.
So
Yeah.
just keep it rolling. He said we can keep it rolling, so let's keep
Okay.
it rolling. So, because we shifting in a whole nother lane.
All the way there.
Because I mean, yeah. Anyway, where are we? We talking about grief now.
We were just talking. What were you going to say, girl?
What I want to talk about as far as hospice, I'll ask you off camera.
What you was going to say before I said about that? You forgot?
I was gonna go to commercial because he had gave us 2 minutes. So we're gonna go ahead and cut it. I tell you what, let's just put a pin right here. Let's stop it. Let's go to break. We're breaking, right? Are we breaking? Are we cutting it? You know
Good.
what?
It was fun, y'all.
Let's wrap it up. Okay, so
We're
what we
getting
just
kicked out.
what we talking about, we just discussed narcissism and we just talked about the different stages and stuff and what that could appear to look like and even how to put up boundaries to even deal with such kinds. But also not how to falsely identify narcissism because we never want to just misdiagnose someone. So the thing is properly getting educated so you can know how to deal with people. Yeah, my house phone ringing. Why? Anyway, so if you want to stay tuned, you know, once again, I'm going to remind you, please like, share, subscribe. You can catch us on the platforms, YouTube, Let's Get Kicked Out Podcast, IG, Let's Get Kicked Out _podcast, or Twitter at LGKO _podcast. Thank you for chiming in. Peace.
We out.
We out.